Welcome to another OU Insider Under the Visor Sooners pregame podcast powered by Riverwind Casino. My name is Brandon Drum, Parker Thune, Travis Davison, aka Grill Boy, joining us as usual. Number 22 in the college football playoff rankings, Missouri, coming to town to take on number 8 Oklahoma as they look to continue their trek to be a host in the college football playoffs starting in the middle of December. Guys, this is a big game for a variety of reasons. One being the college football playoffs implications for Oklahoma. Two being the fact that Eli Drinkwitz has talked a lot about Oklahoma following the game. Granted, Bob Stoops started it by saying nobody was really afraid of Missouri back in the day, which he was talking about his tenure. But it is Drinkowitz's program, so he took offense and snapped back after they beat Oklahoma 30-23 last year up in Columbia with the infamous fumble backwards that Jackson Arnold had with 30 seconds left to go in the game, mind you. There's a lot to talk about. There's a revenge factor. There's some quarterback injuries. Is Bo Prabula going to play? Is Matt Zollers going to be the guy? There's so much we can dissect right now. But before we do all that, and before we talk about our thoughts on this game, college football playoffs, what have you, we're going to thank our sponsors.
Yeah, folks, Riverwind Casino is our presenting sponsor here on the Under the Visor podcast. You know where it's at, right off of I-35 and Highway 9, and it has been the OKC area's premier gaming destination for nearly 2 decades now. Almost 3,000 electronic games, table games, bars, and dining options, plus the best live music in the Metro at the Showplace Theater. It's no surprise that Riverwind is always a good time. Also, props to our friends at Jani-King, the greatest team to ever clean and a proud partner of OU Athletics, as well as OU Insider. Jani-King delivers spotless results and solutions from stadiums to any size business across the country. So check out which of their solutions is best for you or your business by going to janiking.com. That's JANIKING.com.
All right. Guys, just 30,000 foot view kind of talk about this game. What are some of the key factors you look at this game as far as like Oklahoma, maybe matchups that you're looking at just walking into this game on Saturday morning at 11 a.m.?
Well, I'll tell you, what's going to be really interesting to track, I think, for me, is what kind of success Oklahoma is able to establish through the air against a Missouri defense that allows fewer yards per game through the air than any other team in the SEC. The Tigers have what is statistically the conference's best passing defense. Obviously, that has been a struggle for Oklahoma ever since John Mateer returned from the thumb surgery. So if you want to talk about a matchup that does not really work in Oklahoma's favor, that is certainly one of them. This is we got to have the prove it game from John Mateer and the Oklahoma passing attack at some point, right? Like at some point, things have to get back on track. It's going to be tough to accomplish that this weekend against a Missouri secondary that, at least statistically, has been pretty unforgiving this season. But maybe, I mean, they're due. Maybe this is when it happens. Maybe this is the week where things start to fall back into place for John Mateer and this Oklahoma passing attack. But the big one, and we will no doubt talk about Ahmad Hardy at length throughout this podcast because he is Missouri's calling card. He is their meal ticket. But overall, Missouri's run game is far more productive than Oklahoma's run game. And the one discrepancy I think that jumps out to me in evaluating these two teams and their body of work to this point is that the Sooners as a team average 3.8 yards per carry. When that number is south of 4, you're not doing very well. And obviously the running game did come alive in that 3-game stretch against South Carolina, Ole Miss, and Tennessee for Oklahoma. We saw Torrey Blaylock go for 100-plus against the Gamecocks, and then Xavier Robinson had back-to-back 100-yard games against the Rebels and the Volunteers. But Oklahoma has struggled to establish consistency on the ground. Contrast that with what Missouri is doing. Gentlemen, The Tigers average 5.6 yards per carry as a team. 5.6, almost 2 yards better than the Sooners. Ahmad Hardy has 1,346 yards on the ground, which leads the FBS. But Missouri's backup running back, Jamal Roberts, has more rushing yards than anyone on Oklahoma's roster. The Sooners' leading rusher right now is Torrey Blaylock with 402 yards. Jamal Roberts has 583. So there's a lot in this game, at least on the offensive side of the ball for Oklahoma, that you figure like things need to go well for Oklahoma in that department, where Oklahoma does have an advantage and will always have an advantage against anybody they're going up with or up against, excuse me, is they have one of the best defenses in the country. Mm-hmm. And this week they get to face a true freshman quarterback in Matt Zollers. So this is a game that sets up for Oklahoma to win like 13-10, 17-13. It figures to be that type of game if Oklahoma comes out on the winning end.
For sure. Yeah. It's
I was waiting on Travis there to go, but go ahead, Travis.
Yeah. So, I think one of the reasons that, Missouri has been able to put up such gaudy numbers, especially in the run game, is they are one-dimensional. They've been in between quarterbacks for this is now the fourth game that Kribula will be out. So you're going to trust your run game. But they open the year with 6 straight home games, and this is only their third road game of the year. What did they do immediately when they went on the road? They went to 2 overtimes with a terrible Auburn team that the wheels had already come off by the time mid-October came around on Auburn. They were writing letters to the SEC about poor officiating, this, that, and the other. This was a bad Auburn that they taken to 2 overtimes to, and then loss at Vandy, and then they get blown out when they host A&M. Once they've been a different football team, obviously with Pregame out, but ever since they had to step foot on the road after that loss against Bama, they've not been the same. Oklahoma has something to play for. Missouri theoretically does not, or at least has less to play for now that their playoff hopes have been doused. So with Oklahoma, Parker, you mentioned it, like Oklahoma's defensive line is going to have the advantage against everybody. And I think that is going to be huge. It's sell out on the run. We know Brent Venables. What did we talk about last week, guys? One-dimensional offense, right? That's what Alabama was. A one-dimensional offense. Well, Brent Venables is able to force, a defensive touchdown, 4 sacks, 2 total turnovers, another ball that came out that Oklahoma didn't fall on. Like, you give Brent Venables time to look at your offense and know that it's one-dimensional. I'm gonna bet on Brent more often than not. One thing when it comes to Missouri as well, in a lot of the passing stats and things like that, Missouri's good against the pass. I don't think they're quote unquote elite against the pass, simply because I think a lot of their numbers are skewered by lack of possessions. When you run the ball, you limit possessions, right? The clock runs, Missouri wants to limit your possessions, wants to keep your offense off the field. And I think that, Missouri, while good against the pass, I think they're skewed a bit because they haven't faced like 50 pass attempts a game. You know what I mean? Like it just hasn't been one of those things because people don't get many possessions against a team that runs the ball effectively as Missouri's been able to run.
Yeah. So for me, it's pretty simple. You guys talked about OU versus Ahmad Hardy in the run game, and I think that's in a nutshell probably the easiest dissection you can make of this game, because that's what Missouri relies on. He's got 1,346 total yards this season, and he's still got 2 games left. He has already, or he's coming close to, or has already beaten what he ran for last year, and he ran for over 1,300 yards last year as well. So, like, he's phenomenal. I asked Kyle, I'm going to mispronounce this, but McAravy, I actually said it right this time. But yeah, I asked him about, he's the senior editor over there at Mizzou today at On 3. And, I asked him if it was a surprise that Ahmad Hardy has been this productive, knowing that every team knows that he's going to get the ball. They know he's going to get the ball. And, Eli Drinkowitz came out and said, I guess, but like, he's just such a really good player. When you hear that Brent Venables said that he has over 1,000 yards after contact, that is insanity. That is his yak over 1,000 yards after contact is insanity. When you have 1,300 yards, that means of his 1,300 plus yards, literally 75+% of it has been after contact. That's impressive. It means he's a hard runner, which means you better bring it if you're Oklahoma in the run game, which they do. What you don't want to run into is what Oklahoma ran into against Texas, where you're hitting Trey Wisner in the backfield, you're hitting Arch Manning in the backfield, and they're just sliding out, right? And you do that against Ahmad Hardy, and it's night-night. Like, he is going to be a way better than Wisner is when it comes to that yak yardage. So, to me, yeah, it's real simplistic to make it simple, but that's what this game comes down to, is very simple. Stop Ahmad Hardy, make Matt Zollers or Bo Pribula, either one of them, beat you with their arm. You're probably going to win this game. You're probably going to win this game, because the second you can do that, the second you can put Missouri at a 2nd and 8, 3rd and 6, and make them very, very, very simple. The only thing you run into, Missouri does not like to kick field goals. They do not like to punt. Eli Drinkowitz has been essentially the leader in the SEC as far as going for it on 4th downs. If you go look at it, they go for it quite a bit. I think they've gone through it like almost 20 times this year on 4th down. That's a lot.
They're often like 4th and 1, 4th and 2 type vibes too. It's kind of like,
they
the
went,
Eagles with the tush push.
Against Texas A&M, I watched them go for it several times on like 4th and 5, 4th and 6.
Right, but the teams that run the ball so well like they do, it's like
right,
the Eagles.
I get it.
It's like, golly, it's like you get them to 4th and 1, you think you won, and all of a sudden the offense stays out there. You're like, ah.
You're making my point for me by saying, essentially, you keep them in those variables, you're going to stop them even with that extra down. And that's my point. So you got to make them one-dimensional. You've got to make Zollers or Pribula beat you. Now, granted, Pribula can beat you with his legs. Like, he is good enough to beat you with his legs. By no means is he Trinidad Chambliss. But he's Arch Manning. Saw what Arch Manning did. Like, you don't want to let him get loose. I thought Alabama missed the boat a little bit last week. It worked a couple of times with the zone read keeps, where, Simpson kept the ball around the corner, gained 8 to 10 yards every time that he did it, and they got away from it, which I thought Grubbs really, really screwed Alabama on that. But again, you got to make them one-dimensional. You do that, you force them to look to Coleman, in precarious situations. With OU's pass rush, it could be a long, long day for Missouri. Very, very long day. And that, to me, I think is the biggest matchup of this game, OU's defense versus Missouri's offense. Now let's flip it over to the other side, guys. You look at Missouri's defense versus Oklahoma's offense. You look at John Mateer. You guys have touched on where Missouri is ranked, and they're at the top in the SEC in just about every category, along with Oklahoma. So this is very much going to look like a defensive battle on paper. Can Oklahoma just do what A&M did to them and basically slice and dice Missouri? Can they do that at home? I know you're going to say can, yes. Do you expect them to be more successful than they have been as of late with the offense, considering they're at home? And talent-wise, I know it sounds weird to say, but I don't think Missouri is Tennessee and Alabama, particularly not on the road, those two teams, playing them at home.
I think what we can conclude from the data, and I don't know how serious of a reality, how serious of a dynamic this is, but Oklahoma has played better offensively at home than they have on the road this year. So maybe there's something to that. Maybe the offense has a greater comfort level being within the friendly confines of Gaylord Family Oklahoma Memorial Stadium than they do when they're on the road. So Look, I do think this is going to be, I don't know that I would call it a get right game for Oklahoma's offense. I don't know that everything is going to come together. They rack up 500 yards of total offense and fire on all cylinders and bury Missouri by 30 points, but I do think this is the type of game where Oklahoma can and should piece together 3 touchdown drives. And that to me is kind of the barometer for this offense and for this team. Like if you can successfully orchestrate and execute 3 touchdown drives a game with a defense like that and a special teams unit like the one Oklahoma has, especially Tate Sandell, who's money from basically anywhere on the field. If you can have 3 touchdown drives a game on the offensive side of the ball, that's going to be good enough. Now, I should rephrase. That's going to be good enough against Missouri and LSU, would be my belief. Now you get to the college football playoff. Who knows, man? It takes what it takes to win wars against some of the nation's best teams, other CFP qualifiers, whether they come from, or whether Oklahoma would end up facing the G5 representative or one of the at-large bids from the SEC or Big Ten. Like it takes what it takes. You can't really draw up a roadmap, a blueprint for victory in the college football playoff. You just have to show up and play your best football for 60 minutes, leave it all out there. But for Missouri, for LSU, these next 2 weeks, I think the recipe is very simple. If Oklahoma can piece together 3 touchdown drives on the offensive side of the ball, that should be all it takes to get you 2 more wins, advance the CFP at 10-2, and likely be hosting come mid-December.
Yeah, of course. I mean, I think it's one of those things I brought up. Oklahoma has not put together a game of 4 good quarters on offense, not once, and they're 8-2 with 2 of the biggest road wins in the country. Right? Like, so you could either look at that one of 2 ways. One, that's concerning that Oklahoma still hasn't been able to put together a quality offensive game, but also it could be scary for opponents saying, man, this defense and special teams gives Oklahoma such a floor that if the offense puts a game together finally, they could beat anybody in the country. Yeah. So, it's whichever way you want to look at it. You can either be glad that it could still happen or be upset that it hasn't happened through 10 games. But I think this is an opportunity. I think 3 touchdown drives isn't insane by any stretch of the imagination, Parker. When you look at their non-con beefed up their stats big time, and many do, obviously, but they didn't have the Ohio State that Texas did. They didn't have the Michigan that Oklahoma had. They didn't have Notre Dame that A&M had. They didn't have these big time opponents. Their big time opponent was Kansas, and Kansas has been terrible. So when you look at what their yards per game allowed in conference play versus non-conference play, they're allowing 160 more yards a game in conference play, 340 yards a game. When you look at yards per play, in conference play, they're giving up 5.5 yards a play. In non-conference play, they were giving up 3.5 yards per play. So when you look at 160 yards separating it and 2 yards per play, and then Parker, you brought up their pass defense earlier. I mean, the pass defense went from 3.8 yards per attempt in the non-con opposing quarterbacks and 7.7 yards per attempt when we get into conference. And then lastly, quarterback rating in non-conference, their defense was holding opposing quarterbacks to an average 83 rating, not QBR, but rating. In conference, that jumped up to 143.8 on the rating they're giving up in conference play. So it really feels like this defense got fat on University of Louisiana and Kansas and others. And when they've hit conference play, the defense hasn't looked anywhere close to what it was. Now, I know Alabama held Temple and Illinois State to 3 points apiece, but they've fared well against some other competition as well. Turnovers have finally spiked for Oklahoma, things like that. But I think the dramatic difference, I think Missouri, you're coming off 3 losses in their last 5 games, if I'm not mistaken, and one of those was a double overtime win over a bad Auburn team. Like they're going on the road, they're reeling a bit. It's going to be an early game, and Oklahoma's got a lot on the line.
Yeah. So look, for me, I think it's real simple here. Once again, Foje Fasusi going to be critical this week. How do the freshmen play at the tackle positions? Because I think when you're going up against a Damon Wilson, who has 7 sacks this year, a Zion Young, who just 8 against Oklahoma last year, he has 5.5 this year. Darius Smith, who is another rotation defensive end for them, I believe has, I think it was 3.5, 4 sacks this year. Then I'm not even mentioning Chris McClellan, Tulsa, right? Owasso, just a dynamic athlete, one that Oklahoma, if you kind of gave him the truth serum, they probably feel like that was one that kind of got away from him a little bit. He's got 3 sacks as a defensive tackle this year, but they're really good up front. Sterling Webb is another guy who just obviously was like a nobody coming out of high school, has ended up being a really good player for them. They need to step up. The offensive line has to continue to take the steps that they've taken. Look, in 2026, we're never going to talk about the offensive line as a weakness or a potential weakness, if you will. It's just not going to happen. They're going to have both the tackles back. You're going to have your centers back. Centers, I said plural centers because Troy Everett obviously is another guy that's going to be in the mix there. You're going to have Eddie Pierre-Louis back, right? Like, so that's not going to be a question. But when you got 3 freshmen, redshirt freshmen, and Eddie Pierre-Louis, you've got 2 tackles that are true freshmen, and then you've only got 1 senior in Febechi Wewu, who is just, kind of your leader out there, to go along with the transfer from Stanford, Jake Michael at center. So yes, they've gotten experience. Yes, they've gotten better and better and better. And I think the games against Tennessee and against Alabama is going to be kind of a notch on their belt to say, oh, we're back home. We're not going to have to deal with the crowd. The checks are going to be a lot easier as far as hearing, the slides, the protections, all that type of stuff. The communication so much easier. So with that, Oklahoma has to take a step. I think if you don't show that you can take a step at home with the offensive front, I think you're missing the boat here, guys. And that's going to be a very, very critical piece for me to watch, not just to protect Mateer. I'm talking about in the run game with Xavier Robinson and Torrey Blaylock, both of which who aren't on the availability list, which is a shock to a lot of people, including myself and Parker. Like, that was surprising. Those guys have got to have good games. The run game has to get going. As good as Missouri is against the run, Oklahoma has to solidify the run game. Xavier Robinson has got to be an 80-plus yard guy against Missouri on Saturday morning or Saturday afternoon. And if that happens, I think this team, this offense, can be very, very successful, because I think at that point it opens up Kanik over the middle, which has been such a lacking part of the offense the last 2 games, maybe essentially the last month. It's like, where is Kanik gone? And so you need to get him open across the middle. You need Satania to get open across the middle. Gibson, I don't think you need to send Burks across the middle, but he's got to get the quick game going with Burks and use his speed and agility. Like, those are the things that you've got to get going for Oklahoma to really put the Missouri defense on their heels. Because if you can do that, I think Oklahoma can score 24 plus on this Missouri defense. And if they get 24 plus on this Missouri defense, I think Oklahoma's winning by double digits. Tell me I'm wrong, guys.
When you look at the 3 games that Missouri has played since Bo Prabula went down with injury, and he got hurt in the Vanderbilt game. So I'm counting the Vanderbilt game because Matt Zollers obviously finished that game for the Tigers. Correct. 10 points against Vanderbilt, 17 against Texas A&M, 27 against Mississippi State, they're a terrible defensive team. Terrible. But that doesn't suggest that when matched up against one of the best defenses in the nation, the Oklahoma Sooners, this Missouri offense is going to be able to do a whole heck of a lot. Agreed. And so, to me, like, this offense, to your point, Travis, is already somewhat one-dimensional because of the fact that they have a true freshman quarterback and haven't really been able to just have their way through the air. Their one dimension is Ahmad Hardy. And so for Oklahoma and for this front 7, Man, I think it just comes down to this. Limit the chunk gains from Ahmad Hardy. Make sure
Mhm.
he doesn't beat you for big plays. And if you can do that, to a certain extent, a guy like that is going to get his, right? You hand him the ball 20, 25 times, he's going to knock on the door of 100 yards. Like he's going to have some success just going downhill for 3 or 4 at a time. But as long as you don't let that guy rip off 20, 25, 30-yard gains with regularity, or God forbid, break free for a long touchdown run, then I think you've really taken Missouri's fastball away and created a very difficult environment for them to be able to score points.
Yeah.
And for Oklahoma offensively, what I want to see, because yes, it's great if the opponent isn't scoring a whole heck of a lot, but you also have to score points to win, right? The one thing I want to see offensively from Oklahoma, kind of building off what we saw last week in Tuscaloosa, I want more Jermichael Carter. It's not the first time I've mentioned this, brought this up. I want to see more Jermichael Carter on Saturday from Oklahoma, because that guy, in what limited action we have seen from him, he looks good. Like he pops off to the naked eye more so than Giovanni Gibson is by a long shot right now. And, Keontae Lewis, he was active last week, but he didn't play, not a single snap. And so Jermichael Carter, to me, he might be, at least in the short term, the solution at the X. Obviously, Satania and Burks are going to be on the field. They've been on the field for the overwhelming majority of Oklahoma's offensive snaps this season. But Jermichael Carter offers some legit excitement at that X spot. And I would like to see John Mateer target him 7 to 8 times in this football game. Like I would like to see the football find Jermichael Carter more than it has to this point. Obviously, the way you accommodate that is A, you draw stuff up for him, but B, lean on him. Lean on him. And Giovanni Gibson hasn't been bad. I'm not insinuating that he has been. And Keontae Lewis will get more in the mix at a certain point, but have Jermichael Carter on the field for 30, 35 snaps on Saturday and see where that can take you.
Yeah, and you brought up them scoring ever since Zollers took over. I think you said 27 against Mississippi State. Actually, Mississippi State scored the 27. Missouri scored the 49 to win the game.
I'm an idiot. I'm an idiot. You're right.
But regardless, I want to get to the Jermichael Carter point because I think it's also a Jaron Canick point. So one of the things I like about Jermichael Carter, big body, blocking downfield. He's able to pin some of those edges sometimes if you need him to. He's able to get bodies downfield and open up runs downfield. And I think that's a lot of what's kind of stunting Jaron Canick getting more involved in the offense, right? You think of the 20-yard run, the touchdown run, Oklahoma's only offensive touchdown against Alabama. The only person that really missed their block was Jaron Canick. Like the only reason that John Mateer had to hurdle to get over the initial line of scrimmage was because Jaron Canick missed his block. And he got a hand on the dude. The dude went low. All's well that ends well, I suppose. But that play, if there was any way for it not to work, it was because Jaron didn't get his block. So I think that's why you see Caden Helms out there blocking his tail off and getting a bunch more snaps. Carson Kent's out there blocking violently, getting a lot more snaps. I think that Oklahoma, the emergence of the run game, and not that it's, at even Missouri's level of the run game, but what they want to do in the run game, it's like you need Carson Kent and Caden Helms out there, man, because as awesome as Jaron is, like receiving the ball with the ball in his hands, kind of those panic third downs, he always seems to find the soft spot of the zone because he just understands zone defense so well. He's valuable in that sense. But if Oklahoma wants to continue to be this, we're gonna focus on establishing the run game. I think you've got to go with Caden Helms and you've got to go with Carson Kent because they're giving you a lot to like right now when blocking up the run game. So I would like that. And again, that's a Jermichael Carter conversation as well because he's physically impressive. With that, we're not going to run the ball like Missouri. My hot take would be that Missouri has more rushing yards than Oklahoma in this one, mainly because that outside zone they run is just so hard to defend. And that's why Ahmad Hardy was such a high value target for Missouri in the offseason, because they go from Cody Schrader, who won the Burlsworth, was this awesome walk-on running back running in an outside zone scheme. And they're like, how are we going to replace the SEC's leading rusher? How are we going to do that? Well, they're going to go get this other bowling ball dude, 5'10", 210 pounds, low to the ground, and say, hey, you ran outside zone at ULM? Cool, transfer here, and you're just going to run outside zone behind better offensive line play. So, I'm looking for guys like Kip Lewis and Reggie Powers, guys that arrive with bad intentions. Michael Boganowski, guys like that to try and get upfield. Obviously, you want the defensive line to penetrate, but I think those guys are going to have some opportunities. Once Ahmad Hardy thinks there's a hole, all of a sudden there's a torpedo on the other side of it.
This, as far as scoring goes, to me is kind of the fun thing to talk about, just because I think we're all going into this game going, man, whoever hits 20, they're getting that dub. Whoever gets 21st is getting that dub. Because you don't expect, I don't think any of us expect Missouri to get 24, 27 points. I think thinking that would be naive, knowing what we know. Now, granted, if Bo Pribula is playing, okay, you may be able to convince me that they could get to that point. But even then, he's going to be rusty coming back. He hasn't played in a month. So, this is, and you're going up against one of the most aggressive defenses in all college football. I honestly think that's why he's listed as doubtful, guys. Because I think the staff, Pribula, everybody, and Parker, you and I talked about this, how dumb would it be to bring him back if he's not unequivocally 100% against Oklahoma and how physical they are with their pass rush? Just seems, I guess, I don't want to say naive, but just seems...
It seems like coaching malpractice.
Malpractice is a good word.
I mean, he dislocated his ankle less than a month ago. And you want this guy to be able to run away from the team that leads the country in TFLs. The crazy part is Oklahoma leads the country in TFLs at 102. Indiana has played one more game than them, and they still lead them. They're number 2. So, but the difference in tackles for loss per game, Oklahoma has played 10 games. They have 102. Quick math, that's 10.2 tackles for loss per game. The difference between them and Indiana at number 2 on the tackles for loss is the same distance between number 2 Indiana and number 22.
Yep.
They're so far out ahead in the tackles for loss game. If you want to bring Bo Pribula back against this defense, please, I'll welcome him with open arms, as will the entire Oklahoma defensive line and linebacking core, and maybe Devon Jordan. So, I mean, I think there's no way that Pribula plays. I think it would be coaching malpractice, and I don't think he gives them the best chance to win in this sense.
Yeah, I agree. I just think, man, Zollers is just so. I saw where I think it was Brooks Austin said that Oklahoma put Ty Simpson in a blender on, I believe it was a Feinbaum show. You think he's put in a blender? I'm here to tell any Missouri fan that's watching this, watch what happens Saturday morning. I'm not saying that there's not going to be some big plays that Missouri hits on, because Oklahoma leaves that with their aggressiveness. If you can find the open man where they're coming from, okay, and there's protections good enough, you're going to hit some big plays, right? Some chunk plays. I just don't know if it's going to be enough, number one. And in between all those chunk plays, I promise you, Zollers is going to be looking around going, what the hell's going on, coach?
Mm-hmm.
I'm getting hit left and right. I don't even know what's happening with coverages because they're shifting pre and post snap so much and everything's rolling. It's just, there's going to be a lot going on for that poor freshman, man. I feel bad for him. He's
he's
shown
he's in a very compromised position, no doubt.
horrible.
Like, I don't think Missouri fans expected. I don't think anyone expected that their third stringer, because that's what he is. He's a third stringer. Their backup Sam Horn has been out all season, but I don't think anybody expected to be down to their third string quarterback for the stretch run of SEC play. But his two stat lines in his two starts thus far: 7 for 22 for 77 yards against Texas A&M. Last week against Mississippi State, where, again, the Tigers scored 49 points. Thank you, Travis, for the correction. He only threw the ball 15 times. He was 8 for 15, 112 yards, 2 touchdowns, and a pick.
So you said 77 yards against Texas A&M. 40 of those, or 43 or something, that was on one play where Kevin Coleman just head tapped a guy that he just threw the ball up, essentially just said, please, dear Lord, 50-50, go get it. And he did.
Now, I will say, Oklahoma did lose to Drew Pine last year. So there is that.
Jackson Arnold lost to Drew Pine.
Fair.
That's the way I'm going to say it forever.
I'm not saying Matt Zollers can't have an awakening of some sort on Saturday, but this is a very different Oklahoma team than the team Drew Pine beat a year ago.
Yeah, there's not a. They had an assortment of really good receivers. Like, there's no Luther Burden out there.
Yeah,
None.
there's no Theo Weiss.
There's no Theo Weiss. You got Kevin Coleman, and that's it. Or Keon. Is it Keon Coleman or Kevin Coleman?
Kevin Coleman. Keon Coleman plays for the Bills.
Yeah, Kevin Coleman. I said it right the whole time. Thank God.
If Keon Coleman's showing up, we might be in trouble.
Things could get dicey.
You might be a little bit of a problem there. Yeah.
All right, Cortland Guillory, you've been playing great. But Keon Coleman, go ahead.
Yeah, no, for real. Like, yeah, this is going to be one of those games where, honestly, like, I could see Oklahoma just running away with it. I'm not even gonna lie. Like, I could see this thing getting crazy because of turnovers. And I'm not saying Oklahoma's offense is the reason why. I don't think it's because of Oklahoma's offense. I think Zollers in Missouri, if Oklahoma can put them in a 3rd and 8, 2nd and 9s, those type of situations where you're essentially forced to put the ball in the air more than you want to, OU, Brent Venables, that secondary, that defensive line are going to be licking their chops going, this is going to be fun. You might see a pick six. You might see a fumble for a touchdown, that type of game. And that's where I think this is headed. Honestly, for Oklahoma to win by double digits, I think that's where this has to go, because I don't know that I trust OU's offense even at home, honestly, against this defense, Missouri's defense. Well, I think Missouri's defense is that good.
But what is trusting the offense mean? Like, we have to qualify that, right? Like, trusting them to put up, over 24 points, trusting them to score 2 touchdowns. It's all about.
I say 3 touchdowns. I don't think they can score 3.
Okay, what that trust comes down to. It'll be interesting. It depends on, and I think the hidden yardage.
I hope I'm wrong, by the way.
The hidden yardage of special teams. Oklahoma, on average, started their drives 22 yards in the plus versus where Alabama started their drives. If Oklahoma can get into that, and that's why it's going to be so important to win on first down. This is not an offense that is built to handle a lot of 2nd and 13s, a lot of 2nd and 14s, because, buddy, you're going to end up in those 3rd and 6s and those 3rd and 7s where they don't want to go. But I also say that to speak to the Oklahoma fans. Look, I know it's 11 a.m., but this team just went back-to-back on the road.
Yeah.
They deserve your loudest welcome possible. Don't be a spectator, be a participant. If Missouri is having to deal with, that outside zone, it takes a lot of timing. So if you can get them off their timing, get them off their rhythm, if you can cause a couple of pre-snap penalties, that's going to be wildly helpful. So Oklahoma fans have to show up, have to lubricate early, and show up to an 11 a.m. kickoff, ready to scream their lungs out and be a participant and not a spectator. I believe that they will do exactly that after welcoming. The starter introductions for Eli Bowen and for Kip and for all these guys. Even when people talking about, oh, Xavier Robinson, how's the health? If they announce him as the starter, it's going to go wild. I think the crowd's going to be ready to roll.
I'm gonna say pause on the lubricate early part. So, um, I just
A
my
well
mind.
lubricated fan base is typically referring to alcohol, Mr.
I
Drum.
know what it's referring to. My mind goes somewhere else. I'm sorry. Um, yeah, look, the fans need to show appreciation to this team. They need to show up, show out. The ones that didn't get to watch them in person in Knoxville and in Tuscaloosa, this is your chance to be a part of something big because Missouri still is the number 22 team in the country. Missouri still has a chance to be a New Year's Six Bowl type of team if they beat Oklahoma and they beat Arkansas. So they've got a lot to play for in that aspect to end up 9-3 at the end of the season. Eli Drinkowitz still talked crap. And by the way, Caden Green is coming back. For those that don't remember, that's the dude that walked out on Oklahoma without saying a word to anybody and ended up back at Missouri. Didn't say a word to anybody. Just grabbed his crap out of his locker and dipped out. This is your chance to come on. That's essentially, I know he didn't want to do it. His dad forced him. Let's get that corrected. But still, that's how it happened. Like he literally grabbed his crap out of the locker while they were practicing and left. Parker, you and I were at the practice. We didn't even where the coaches didn't know where he was at the time. Remember? Like that's how the players, like, where was Cade Good? Like, I don't know. Was he not at practice today? Like the players didn't even know. Like that's how that played out. And this is his first time back to Norman, guys.
And you know who's going to line up opposite him?
Taylor Wine.
Taylor Wine.
Mm-hmm.
And like Caden Green, his
from the same
his
class.
Star rose very high very quickly at Oklahoma. He was starting at guard as a true freshman midway through the season. Taylor Wine didn't so much as make a ripple the first 2 years that he was at Oklahoma. And then obviously he's exploded onto the scene in a major way here in 2025. But if he gets the better of Caden Green in that matchup on Saturday, if we walk away going Taylor Wine won that battle today against Caden Green, that's something the fan base is no doubt going to savor because that's a dude that paid his dues and kept his nose down and never got discouraged being buried on the depth chart and just made break after break after break for himself, got the opportunity to see the field, and then he flew with it.
I mean, that's facts. And
so if that guy in particular is the guy that gets the better of Caden Green on Saturday, you bet Oklahoma fans are going to savor it.
Well, and it has an opportunity when you just think of how fans treat people, it could be basically the juxtaposition of Brecken Hager, right? I mean, when you have everybody on that team, I mean, it's not just, Taylor that, was in that class, even guys that were in the class prior or that know about Caden since. I mean, I could totally see them just trying to just smoke him with as many bodies as humanly possible, throw a couple dudes out. Like I could see them trying to make an example out of him. And I don't think it would diminish their defensive efforts to try and get him off his timing, to get in his head, everything like that. So I have no personal beef with the kid, but I could see how Oklahoma players might feel some type of way about a kid that left their team high and dry because, quote unquote, talk to my dad.
Yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, you brought up Brecken Hager, which was that was the meanest we saw the OU defense during that 2018 season. Could you imagine that being the meanest we've seen in Oklahoma? This defense, that's another level that it would almost be scary just because I don't know if you could feel okay about what might happen to Caden Green if they got to that level because of how mean OU's defense already is. That 2018 defense was like a pillow fight, but they took it to like they went 10 times the physicality against Brecken Hager. He was getting freaking demolished against that OU offensive line. So if you flipped it to where that OU defense is the one doing what the OU offensive line was doing to Brecken Hager back then, oh my goodness gracious, that scary, scary. So kind of feel bad for Caden Green if that happens. Look, real quick, what do you expect John Mateer's stat line to be on Saturday morning? Like just a guess. Like, what do you the expectations?
Well, the reason I'm smiling out of the gate is because we had this conversation last week, and it was like we kept talking. John Mateer has to throw for like 225 and 2 touchdowns.
Oh, I know. Yeah.
And all he did in response was throw for like 14 yards and run for 2 yards, basically. And it was like Oklahoma wins the football game on the road against the top 14.
That's not sustainable, though.
Since 2019. I know it's funny. We keep on saying, "Hey, man, this isn't sustainable," and then they win.
True.
Like it's wild to me. So obviously, the most important thing for John Mateer, clean game, cannot turn the ball over. You know, that's number one with a bullet. But he's going to have to throw for more than the 138 yards he threw for against Alabama. He's going to need to run for more than the 22 yards. I mean, I get the 20-yard touchdown run. I'll take another one of those. But you're going to have to, I think, get 40 plus in the rushing total from him. And I think you need to get 180 plus in the passing total from him. So 180 and 40, if we want to call it total offense for John Mateer being right around, let's say total offense for John Mateer, you need it to be 225. Then I'd be fine with that. But first and foremost, hold on to the ball. Do not turn the ball over against a team that would just wants to grind outside zone for an hour.
Parker, do you just agree with that?
I'm sorry. What was the question?
Like, what do you? Don't worry about. There was about the no. The question
sorry,
was
I had nothing to add to what Travis said.
Okay. Basically, I agree with you. I think Travis, you're even a little higher. I think Oklahoma can win if he just throws for 150 and runs for 50. Doesn't turn the ball over. As long as Xavier Robinson, Torrey Blaylock can hit, one of those guys can hit that 85-yard mark running the ball, you're looking at 285, 300 yards of total offense. Just because I don't expect Missouri to get more than 300 yards of total offense, I think Oklahoma, I think that's pushing it, by the way, 300 yards of total offense against, just because I don't think they can get it through the air. I think there's a world where OU shuts Missouri down for about 275, 250 total offense. And if you can accumulate that and, what have you, force some turnovers, I don't think Mateer needs to get more than 200 total yards. As long as you can have Torrey Blaylock hitting about 40 and, Xavier Robinson hit 80, 85 yards rushing, which would put you over the 300-yard mark of offense. Don't you think that would probably be enough to win this ball game? Particularly because you have Tate Sandell.
See, I will be honest. I'm not really as big on statistical benchmarks being indicative of victory after the game that we watched in Tuscaloosa last week.
I agree with that.
Oklahoma, the box score would tell you Oklahoma lost that football game. Everything but the scoreboard would tell you Oklahoma lost that football game. Yeah. So to me, man, there's something special about this football team. It's undeniable at this point. Can you keep hashtag Red November rolling? If so, man, I don't much care what it looks like on Saturday. And I'm not necessarily going to throw one stat out there that Oklahoma needs to win or one area in which they need to dominate. Like this team against Tennessee and Alabama proved that they know how to win. regardless of what it looks like. When we talked to John Mateer Monday night after practice, he said every game is different. You just play to win the game. And so for Oklahoma on Saturday, to me, maybe this is not the hard-hitting analysis that people want to hear. I don't know, but just find a way.
Okay, so I'm with you. However, the College Football Playoff Committee has made it very clear if you want to keep this home game and Alabama somehow runs through everything and they end up playing in the SEC title game and winning, right? You need to jump Oregon. You need to look pretty this weekend. You just do, because they've essentially said that your offense is the reason why you're not ahead of Oregon right now. That's why OU is not ahead of Oregon. So
yeah, I don't think a pretty display this weekend will have them jumping Oregon, especially considering that Oregon has
I know who they're
a higher
playing.
ranked opponent this weekend, and if they win that game, we're not jumping them anyways. So I think the committee, it's very interesting when they choose to use the eye test. I'll just leave it at that. But
totally agree. But
they're I think Oklahoma, you take care of business. There's a lot that can happen. Obviously, the Egg Bowl still has to be played. Oregon USC obviously has to be played. You've got the Iron Bowl that has to be played. You've got the Big 12 championship. Who knows? They say they won't drop teams based on Big 12 champion or conference championship stuff, but they absolutely will. Yeah, they absolutely will. You've got other games that Oklahoma just take care of business, man. Just take care of business. I'd love to get up to that 5-6 line so we don't have to deal with Ohio State right away. But beggars can't be choosers, I suppose.
Hey, Sooners fans, we'll get you right back to the video, but first I want to give a shout out to our sponsor, SeatGeek. With over 35 million downloads, SeatGeek is the #1 ticketing app. There are more than 70,000 events listed on SeatGeek, including concerts, sports, festivals, and more. SeatGeek is also the official ticket marketplace for the Oklahoma Sooners, so all Sooners tickets on SeatGeek are authentic and secure. I love using SeatGeek. We already used it with my family to buy Oklahoma Sooners home games. We are going to use it again for Missouri and LSU. We used it for Shane Gillis earlier this season, the concert. We used it for Dave Chappelle. We used it for Oklahoma City's professional team. When they were making that run for the title, we used it. SeatGeek is not just a place to buy tickets, but it's also a place to make sure you're getting a good deal on your purchase. So if you're wondering if you're spending too much or being overpriced, SeatGeek has your back. Each ticket is rated on a scale from 1 to 10, so you know you're getting a good deal. So look for the green dot, which green means good, red dot, red means bad. Plus, every ticket is backed by their buyer guarantee. After we tell you all those cool features, of course, OU Insider has a code for you guys, so you can use the code OU Insider to make sure you get your 10% off your next ticket purchase on SeatGeek. That's 10% off any tickets with the promo OU Insider. Make sure you click the link in the description to download the app so that you have the code automatically added to your account so you can use it later. Thank you, SeatGeek. Fair enough. All right. Let's do some predictions and then let's get out of here. Let's start with Pittsburgh at Georgia Tech. Look, Pat Narduzzi just had a pretty much given to them last week against Notre Dame. But we all saw it coming because he said he didn't really care because it wasn't an ACC game.
Mm-hmm.
But can you flip that switch? Can you flip that switch after what happened last week and go in there down to Atlanta and upset Georgia Tech? I don't think so. I'm taking Georgia Tech.
I agree. I like Georgia Tech to win this football game. As of right now, I like Georgia Tech to be the ACC's representative in the college football playoff. They're gonna get the chance, and I know this sounds daunting at face value, but they get the chance to play Georgia in the season finale, right? As they always do. That's going to be a real opportunity for this program to prove that they belong and they can at the very least hang with the elite of the elite. I don't necessarily expect them to win that game, but that is going to be a good opportunity for them to really see, or for us to really see, I should say, what this team is made of heading into the ACC title game and heading into what could be a college football playoff berth for them out of the ACC. So I like them to get it done on their home field this weekend against Pitt. Yes. And advance to 10-1 on the season. Double-digit wins for the Yellow Jackets. Heck of a job that Brent Key has done down there.
Yeah, Georgia Tech's going to win the football game. I know it's a tight spread, but yeah, Georgia Tech's going to take all that momentum, and who knows? Yeah, if they end up somehow beating Georgia, then that is the chaos that everybody's been waiting for. But save that prediction, I suppose, for another week or two. So yes, Georgia Tech wins the games. Next up,
BYU going to Cincinnati. Obviously, it is a night game. They are playing at Cincinnati, which is known to be a hostile environment. I'm going to take the Bearcats, guys. I'm taking the Bearcats on the upset. I know people are going to think I'm crazy. I'm taking the Bearcats.
I don't think anybody's going to think you're crazy for that. I mean, Brendan Sorsby is quietly one of the better quarterbacks in the country and has played good ball this season for Cincinnati, really good ball at times. They're at home. And like having been there, Brandon, as you and I have been to Nippert Stadium, that's an awesome road environment. Did you make that trip too, Travis?
Yeah, I was there.
You were there in Cincinnati, so you can attest as well. Like that is an amazing place to watch a college football game, and it gets loud. That is about the loudest crowd of 39,000 people that you can find anywhere. So especially
so close,
especially at night. Yes, I like Cincinnati at home. And I think this has a direct impact on Oklahoma in the sense that BYU's second loss would eliminate them from college football playoff contention. And that would virtually ensure that Oklahoma hosts a first-round CFP game. And in fact, like maybe gives them an outside chance to snag one of those 4 byes. I'm not counting on that. But what that would do is that would absolutely ensure that the Big 12 is a 1-bid league, and that would essentially seal the deal and ensure that Oklahoma is going to host a first-round CFP game, because at that point you're not going to get shuffled down because the Big 12 winds up, for instance, getting 2 teams in, and you have maybe Alabama, a scenario where Alabama wins the SEC. So like BYU being out of the picture, not super consequential in the grand scheme because Oklahoma controls their own destiny anyway, for the most part. But this would take the likelihood from like 95% to virtually 100% that Oklahoma is hosting should they win their last 2 games.
Yeah, I mean, I'm enjoyed my time in Cincinnati as well. Did post game from an Italian spot in an alley, which was fascinating. But not only would BYU be cleaned out of the playoff discussion, it also would make my Twitter experience a lot less annoying because man, they every playoff rankings is nothing but BYU fans all over my timeline crying about the resumes. But I do think BYU is a good football team. I'm going to take Brigham Young to get it done, even though I'll be pulling for the Bearcats.
All right, one more before we get to the this week's. Just there's more decent games, but we're in a tight crunch here. USC at Oregon. Oh, guys, Hudson Stadium's going to be rocking Saturday afternoon when Lincoln Riley and company go up there. Apparently, it's going to be rainy again. This is another one of those rainy Big 10 games. Excuse me. USC got kind of a tune-up with that when they played Iowa at home last week. Ended up coming out on top there. I don't know how I feel about this game, other than I am praying, dear Lord, to let USC win and Oklahoma host Lincoln Riley and USC in the playoffs, because I want to see that take place. Josh Pate even said the same thing. He said he would get in a chokehold just to make that happen. Because he goes, I don't care about anything but that game. Oh, please give it. Just give it everything to us when it comes to that.
It'd be
I'm with
unbelievable.
him. Unbelievable. So because of that, I'm picking the Trojans. And if you're an OU fan right now, you want that to happen so badly. So you should be going for USC as well. Plus, it moves Oklahoma up even further in the rankings.
There's a large majority, I would say an overwhelming majority of the OU fan base that has already taken to their keyboards to type out in the YouTube comments, "How dare you, Brandon? I will never root for Lincoln Riley or USC."
I understand.
That aside, quack, quack, Ducks by 20. I don't think this game is close. I think Oregon is a much better football team than USC. And especially with this game being played at Autzen Stadium, Ducks by 20.
They are. I'm rooting for chaos and fun.
Ducks fly together. So Parker and I will fly together with our pick of the game, while also understanding that, yes, Brandon, every Oklahoma fan should be rooting for Lincoln Riley in this scenario. It's two-pronged. It knocks Oregon down, so you move up a spot if you win this weekend. Mm-hmm. Again, I want to keep on prefacing this with Oklahoma has to keep winning football games for all of this to even matter. But you knock Oregon down, you move up a slot. USC's got to come from behind to make the playoff. So, and they still might not make it. So USC knocking off Oregon, they're not going to jump Oklahoma or anything like that. But I think that if USC wins this weekend and Oklahoma wins this weekend, I would argue that it's probably a greater than 50% chance that Oklahoma hosts USC for a playoff game. Greater than 50% chance. Mm-hmm. Because why is there so much money in this sport?
Television, baby.
Television.
Exactly
and
right.
There's nothing when you are at risk of South Florida going to Lubbock or, some random ACC team showing up to, when you're at risk of some possibly kind of boring environments, you have the opportunity for Oklahoma to host Lincoln Riley. They might put them in the playoff just for that reason. The resume, I don't know, but the eye test showed us as our eyes looked at our bank accounts. The eye test of the bank account said that Lincoln Riley is going to travel to Norman, Oklahoma, and he's going to have to coach from the Pope Mobile because he's going to be in so much danger on that sideline. It would be absurd. But I got the Ducks winning the game. Ducks fly together.
All right. Oklahoma hosting 22nd ranked in the college football players rankings. Missouri, they're 21 and 23 in the coaches and AP poll. Oklahoma is essentially 8 across the board. Doesn't matter what poll, they're 8th. This is a big game, 11 a.m. kickoff on ESPN. Guys, I think not only does the Oklahoma defense turn the ball over, or force turnovers. I think Oklahoma's offense gets 2 touchdowns. I think Tate Sandell gets a couple of field goals. I think there's a defensive touchdown involved with Oklahoma as well. And I think Oklahoma pulls away. Yeah. I think Oklahoma is that crazy to think there's a defensive touchdown after what we've witnessed the last 2 games? I don't think so.
You do you, bro.
Yeah. I got 27-14 Oklahoma covers. They look better. The eye test looks better. And we'll see what happens in the college football playoff rankings next Tuesday. But I have them winning 27-14.
Yeah, I think this is a slow game that opens up a little bit in the second half for Oklahoma on the offensive side of the ball as Ben Arbuckle starts to settle in and figure out what Missouri's throwing at him schematically. I think Tate Sandell goes 4 for 4, continues to solidify his case, the only case as the Lou Groza Award winner. Forget it. Forget even voting for that award. Yeah. It belongs to Tate Sandell. It's not even a question, not even close at this point. But I think Oklahoma wins this football game 26-10. Earlier in the week, I figured, 1 possession game, but the more I've dwelt on it, the more I've realized, the more I've just maintained a cognizance of just how good Oklahoma's defense is versus just how one-dimensional Missouri is on offense and how much they're going to struggle, you would think, to pick up chunk gains against this offense through the air, or against this defense through the air, Yeah, I think this is a multi-possession win for Oklahoma. I like them 26-10.
Hey, Parker, maybe we should go to social and brag about you being a Heisman and me a Thorpe.
So, anyways, I'll get to my pick. But my thing is, I can't believe that both of you are picking like double digit. I think a 13 and a 16-point win. Ooh, boy. I mean,
Come on, man.
I'm thinking I've got Oklahoma 20-17. I think this one's going to be a bit of a nail biter. I think that there will be extremely limited possessions due to each team wanting to establish the run. I think neither team's going to put the ball in harm's way very often. I think there's going to be a lot of drives stall out due to the other defense, field position battle, kind of like a classic Iowa game, who many have referenced we look like over these last couple of weeks. But I've got Oklahoma 2017. That it hits the under, and it is not a cover, but Oklahoma remains in the top 10 and squarely in control of their own destiny after this weekend.
Yeah. All right. Well, that's going to do it for this version of the OU Insider Under the Visor Sooners pregame podcast powered by Riverwind Casino. If you're not subscribed to this YouTube channel or whatever podcasting platform you are listening to us on, hit that subscribe. Look, we do this because of you. This is all free, and we can provide all the free content because you guys have subscribed to all these channels. So please hit that subscribe, hit that like, hit that 5-star, hit the notification buttons to make sure we can continue to bring all this content, whether it's Josh Pate, whether it's Danny Stutzman, whether it's a pregame podcast, whether it's a post-practice blitz or whatever podcast we are talking about on this channel. It all happens for free because you all are subscribed and watching this channel. Thank you guys. We're listening to this, whatever podcasting platform you're listening to us on. Thank you guys so very much. Make sure you go to ouinsider.com, hit that join now button, $1 for the first week, plus complimentary on On3 and OU Insider. You get The Athletic as well, New York Times, all that type of stuff. Plus, if you sign up with On3 and OU Insider, you get all of On3, whether it's Texas, Florida site, Alabama, Missouri, LSU, whatever site you want to go peruse and look. OU's recruiting against somebody. Maybe you're wanting to know about the coaching carousel and where Arkansas stands in their coaching search. You can go to the Arkansas site and find all the VIP information you want. But all you have to do is go to ouinsider.com, sign up right now for $1 the first week. Plus you get The Athletic complimentary on us and all of On3 sites as well. So it's a really, really cool deal. For Parker Thune, for Travis Davison, my name's Brandon Drum. You guys have a blessed day.